Well, the creepy and kooky, mysterious and spooky family returns for another animated romp in the Addams Family 2. This time they're going on vacation, so should we come along? In an effort to create more family bonding, the Addamses embark on a road trip vacation, along the way experiencing craziness and finding out what really makes a family. I love that all the voice cast returns for this, save for Finn Wolfhard, whose voice was probably now just a little bit too deep to reprise his role as Pugsley. We have Oscar Isaac, Charlize Theron, Chloe Grace Moretz, Nick Kroll, Snoop, and Bette Midler. New to the cast is Javon Walton as the new Pugsley, along with Bill Hader and Wallace Shawn. Now the animation looks amazing with some great textures and depth. The character designs are wonky, but they're very fitting for this extremely strange family. Now surprisingly, the story has a fairly mature bent to it, where we have Wednesday partially feeling like she doesn't belong in the family, and at the same time Gomez desperately trying to connect with his teenage daughter and form some kind of bond. He is pretty heavy-handed in his approach, which doesn't always have the greatest of outcomes, but he's good-natured, so it does provide some heartfelt back-and-forth exchanges that are both sweet and then sometimes biting. The film, while having some of these heavier themes, is still really aimed at the younger crowd. I mean, the jokes are cheesy and even forced at times, and the overall story progression is wildly obvious. But again, when it's directed at the littles, it's not such a big deal. The movie is 93 minutes long, and I think in an effort to keep the younger viewers engaged, the film works in a sight gag or slapstick sequence about every 3 minutes. I mean, it's like short attention span theater, but it works. There's a bunch of entertaining and even humorous events that the story exploits in these slapstick moments too. And even though they're there to hold the attention of the youngins, I chuckled along. I was amused. While I didn't find the overall story terribly engaging from a depth perspective, I was entertained by the humor that is both outlandish and sarcastic. For this plot, the story introduces a complication that brings into question the actual familial relationship of Wednesday to the Addams. Now, I don't think it's developed overly well, but the concept is there and it makes sense for how the story lays it out, which makes it simple enough for kids to understand and follow along. Now, there are some scenarios that are downright dark involving Wednesday and a lawyer. Now, the outcome of one of their exchanges may go over kids' heads, but for the adults following along, eesh. For me, Nick Kroll as Fester stole the show. And Fester's already weird, but there's a new complication to his story that's introduced, and it makes for some very humorous interactions. And while his voice can be a bit grating over the long haul, I think it fits perfectly with the character design. If you don't have some sort of kid in your life, this probably isn't going to be a movie that you instantly gravitate towards. But if you're looking for an entertaining way to spend an hour and a half just getting in some chuckles while the littles laugh at the ridiculousness, it's a good way to spend the time. To the best of my knowledge, this is hitting both theaters and VOD at the same time, making it very accessible to just about everybody. So overall, The Addams Family 2 is a good family story that highlights bonds and relationship values while delivering amusement. The animation looks wonderful, and the voice cast creates characters that are engaging and that live up to their namesakes. While the story itself is predictable and not terribly deep, portions of the story arc did surprise me with the amount of emotion that they contained. Plus, the way everything is executed should keep families engaged and having a great time. There's no sex, nudity, or profanity, but there is some animated violence. I give The Addams Family 2 3 out of 5 couches. Do you have a favorite Addams character? Let me know who and why in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.